The story begins with two cops, Kay Matoba and Rick Fury, waiting for a group of fairy dealers who arrive late. Upon catching the fairy dealers, the detectives reveal their true intention of arresting them. One of the culprit's eyes starts bulging and he breaks the handcuffs on Rick's neck in a matter of seconds. Kay shoots at him, but it doesn't affect him. The culprit starts speaking an alien language, Falberni, telling Kay that he will take the fairy with him. He then runs off with the fairy, leaving Kay with Rick's dead body. 15 years prior, a hyperspace gate in the Pacific Ocean had appeared out of the blue. It gave way to fairies and monsters to inhabit the Santa Risa city of Cariana Island. 2 million species had crossed the gate, giving the city the nickname Earth's Front Door. This resulted in crimes such as drug dealing, prostitution, and firearms smuggling. To keep things under control, the Santa Risa Metropolitan Police Department has created a particular unit known as the Special Vice Unit to take care of such crimes. At the crime scene, Chief Jack Roth tells him that the Falberni speaking man was tracked down 2 miles away at the Apple Hills. Kay doesn't believe it because he is confident that he shot it with a 9mm several times. How did he make it that far? The chief points out that he must have been someone with some special abilities. A Sumanian wizard might have controlled him. Kay points out that he spoke the Falberni language, and the fairy held some sort of importance for him. The chief orders him to go home. Kay is determined to find the culprit responsible for the death of his 4-year-old partner. How was he supposed to give this news to the wife? Kay's car is parked in an alley when some Sumanians come to annoy him for money. He gets out of the car, tosses a few coins, beats them up, and tells them not to mess with every other human. He then gives the news of her husband's death to Rick's wife. She is left in a state of shock and disbelief. The detective is about to enter his apartment when he gets a call from the chief. He wants Kay to talk to a noble VIP from the Falberni Kingdom. She is to arrive in the morning. Kay isn't very pleased with the order. He is skeptical that he should get involved because it sounds diplomatic. Roth tells him it's because he knows the language, and they are short on detectives. Kay wants to go after whoever killed his friend and avenge his death. Roth assures him that she seems to be involved in it. Kay goes by the Coast Guard boat to pick up this so-called VIP from a ship. A kid hops down from the ladder and the ship leaves. Kay yells after them for their VIP. The kid happens to be the VIP he came after. She introduces herself as Tilarna Exadilica of the Knights of Mirfor. She happens to be the other protagonist. Tilarna is offended that he hadn't prepared any sort of ritual or greeting ceremony to welcome her. In his disbelief, Kay throws away his cigarette and takes off his sunglasses for a better look. She questions if he is unable to talk. Kay finally speaks up, saying he didn't notice her presence earlier. The sky clears up. She unsheathes her sword and reveals her full name, which happens to be more of a sentence. She explains that it means Tilaran, eldest daughter of Saya of the House of Exadilicia, heir to the bloodline of Duke Devil of the glorious Knights of Mirva. She asks about his. His Kay Matoba sounds so dry and simple compared to hers. She orders him to carry her things while nonchalantly mispronouncing his name without a care in the world. At the office, Kay is informed by his chief that Tilaran will replace Rick. He has to aid her in the investigation. She is a Falberanian knight sent to rescue the fairy known as the Most Noble Fairy in the Samani world. She was smuggled onto Earth. Kay can't take it anymore. He criticizes the fact that his partner of 4 years has just died, and now they want him to do a babysitting job. Tilarna goes on to formally request him in an eloquent manner to help her in the investigation. He starts swearing at them even though it's an order. He sure has a vile mouth. She's offended by his remarks and demands the best policeman they have. Roth tells her that Kay has to be her partner because he is the only detective who can truly help her get the fairy back. A police officer, Tony McBee, rings up Kay. He informs the latter that the man from the night before has finally disclosed a bit of information. The fairy was with a Mexican gang in a ridgeline, and these guys had snatched her from them. Kay buckles up Tilarna and speeds off to track down the Mexican gang. Tilarna starts bombarding him with questions, asking him about ridgelines, Mexicans, and gangs. Kay gets overwhelmed and tells her just to zip it. She touches something and the car almost crashes into a heavy truck. The sudden jerking of the car scares her and she starts screaming at Kay for almost killing her. He retorts back that he already warned her not touch anything. They walk into the club called Lady Chapel. He tells her to keep her distance because he doesn't want anyone getting the wrong idea about them being close. The feeling is mutual though. Upon entering the club, Kenny, a bouncer at the club, stops Tilarna from following Kay to the back room. He shows his distaste for the Senmanians whom he calls Itis. She slashes his tie. He is taken aback and lets her through. In the back room, Biz O'Neill, the owner of the club, is busy making a transaction of a 50-inch TV when they walk in on him. He gets flustered and ends the call. Kay inquires him about the Mexican gang. O'Neill seems to know about them but wants $300 first in the name of charity for the club. Kay threateningly reminds him that he is already on probation, might as well not make things worse for himself, especially with the TV transaction of his. O'Neill waves his handkerchief like a white flag, surrendering the information. In the car, Tilana asks how Kay could possibly believe a thief. He tells her that O'Neill may be a thief, but he is also his informant, and he is somewhat trustworthy. Tilana just can't wrap her head around it. How does a cop who is supposed to catch the bad guys go about asking the same guy for help? The policemen, as she calls them, sounded like men of justice, but it looks like they don't even have any pride. Kay tries to explain that some things are just too complicated to explain. They arrive at the location to find a man named Antonio Alvarez. Upon entering the elevator, Tilana can smell someone under the influence of an evil wizard passing by. As soon as the elevator door opens, she starts chanting the spell Shield of Law, Protection of the War God, and goes in to attack the enemy with a sword in her hand. Kay follows suit. Upon entering the apartment, they are greeted with the gruesome sight of a man getting stabbed by a possessed Antonio. He starts firing at them. Kay quickly gets Tilana behind a couch for cover. Kay shoots him, but it doesn't seem to affect him. He bounces back, firing at them. Tilana tries to attack him, but Kay pulls her right back. They are mad at each other for getting in the way while Antonio escapes. Kay goes after him, ordering her to stay put, as if she is going to listen to him. He shoots the man, making him fall from the stairs. The man does the same, and now Kay ends up on the ground. Tilana attacks him from behind. Antonio opens fires at her. She shows her knightly skills by dodging the oncoming bullets and slashes him dead. Kay is frustrated. He needed the man alive for interrogation. Tilana tells him that the man was long dead before she supposedly killed him. He had been under the influence of mildy, a sort of magic that's done on corpses. Kay isn't convinced. He says to her face that she is just a big hurdle in the whole investigation. They probably paid her enough to take on this job. She finds his comments so scandalous that she holds her sword to his neck and warns him not to talk to her like that ever again. He isn't impressed, but adds that they have the same goal, then why draw weapons at each other? All differences aside, he believes her because a man acting the same way had killed Rick the previous night. They go to the morgue where both the dead bodies of the Mildy victims lie. Cecil Epps, the coroner of Santa Teresa Police Department, tells them that upon examination, it can be concluded that both of the men had died way before they were killed. This basically meant that they had turned into some sort of zombies. Tilana tells them that the deceased men smell of Latena. She explains that it had been laced with something and they ingested it daily, which turned them into living dead. Cecil questions if she's referring to some sort of a drug. Kay guesses fairy dust. Tilana explains that the Marzani people are able to cast spells on the dead. It looks like the drug is extracted from fairies. Tilana is disgusted at the fact that someone can use noble fairies in such a vile way. On the phone, Kay is informed that the possessed man named Antonio Alvarez was either being watched when they arrived or a mole is present amongst them. On the way back to his apartment, Kay drops Tilana at the hotel she is staying in and requests her to not cause any further problems for him. She tells him that she is a 26-year-old who can look after herself. Kay corrects her by saying that she's only 18 years in Earth years. Eventually, she gets kicked out of the hotel. Kay ends up taking her to his apartment. She doesn't want people to spread any weird rumors. He's so fed up that he tells her to just shut it. They walk into his apartment, but not before Kay wears a mask to greet the cat waiting for him. Tilana, as curious as ever, starts pestering him with questions regarding the cat and Kay's allergy. He tiredly explains that he has trouble breathing near the cat due to her fur, hence the mask. He rescued her while on duty. Her name is Kuroi, and he is taking care of it for the time being. Tilana finds it all quite amusing. Kay, on the other hand, is confused. She informs him that he didn't come across as a softie. She thanks him for letting her stay. While lying in bed, he looks up the meaning of Kay Imatueba because she has mispronounced his name since they met. The search says that it means a fearful kitten. It looks like she has been mocking him this whole time. In the dark of the night, Kareem, a terrorist, meets Dennis Elbaji, a fairy smuggling gang leader. He presents the latter with a briefcase of money for a transaction. Elbaji tells him that thanks to the poor fairies, he gets to live his best life. He then introduces Kareem to the wizard named Zalada. Apparently, he can cast spells that can control the dead. Kareem asks if it's those who have consumed the fairy dust. Zelada affirms and says that his magic has no impact on those with pure souls. Elbajee brings out a prototype fairy bomb that he is about to put it to test. From a distance, sirens blare and police arrives in no time. Kareem gets startled, but Elbajee assures him that earlier he himself had dialed 911 and told them that some suspicious activity was happening. He warns Kareem not to look at the light and throws the bomb at the police. The flare of the bomb is blindingly bright. It doesn't cause any destruction but rather transforms the policemen into puppets. Zelada makes one shoot the other with Elbajee's order, then makes the other dance around and kills himself. Kareem gets scared at the sight he's witnessing. This scary thing can control up to 5,000 to 10,000 people. The one that they are developing would have a blast radius of about 5 kilometers. Later, Rick's funeral takes place. Kay says that Rick isn't the first comrade whose body he had to carry, but it never gets easier. Jamie Austin, another police officer, rings up Kay to tell him that the petroling car that went missing the previous night has been found in the East Rock Park. Upon arriving at the location, Kay tells his K9 or Talana to sniff them. Talana informs them that they had definitely taken some fairy dust. Talana says that they might have used gold filigree. This thing can't be used as a trigger to increase the power of the Latena. However, to use this sort of power, it has to be finer than a strand of hair, and she hasn't seen her people accomplish that yet. Kay points out that maybe a machine could. While eating at a diner, Kay shows Talana on his phone a man named Dennis Elbajee, a Somanian club owner who has purchased a powerful manufacturing machinery. She wants him to bring him in for interrogation right away, but he tells her that on Earth a god-named due process has to be followed. Talana can't wait any longer to save that noble fairy and goes to rescue her, leaving behind her sword. Kay looks up for information on the office computer regarding Milva people and their abandonment of the sword anointed to them on their ceremony. Leaving it behind means she is not going to obey the orders. It looks like she's on a suicide mission. Cameron Estefan, whom Kay calls Cammy for short, sends him the information regarding Elbajee and his company. They question Talana's whereabouts as she hasn't been sighted the whole day. Kay tries to cover up by saying that she is probably napping. The chief comes from behind, inquiring why she would leave her sword behind. Kay awkwardly admits that she disappeared out of sight. Jake wants him to find her, and he better not hear any complaints about the investigation. Talana goes to Elbajee's club accompanied by Biz O'Neills and Kenny. They dressed her up in clothes appropriate for clubbing. She gives them an heirloom to show her appreciation and leaves their company to find Elbajee. Kenny rings up Kay. She is sitting at the bar when Elbajee shows up on his own. He speaks in her language and tells her that he is one of her people and takes her to the office to meet the man named Elbajee. He goes to sit behind the desk, thinking she will be impressed on finding out that he is the owner. However, she is already aware of the fact. Talana cuts to the chase and demands him to return the fairy. He refuses because the fairy is only a product to him and he needs to use it. Talana takes out another sword from her purse. She kills his security in a few seconds. Elbajee unsheathes his own sword and starts dueling with her. He effortlessly throws her down to the floor, taking away her weapon, and informs her that they are going to have a long Q&A session. He takes her to an old temple in the highlights. Kay is already there, standing at a distance, watching them through his binoculars. Chief Roth orders him to stay put until the SWAT team arrives. However, Kay sees the security personnel running outside as fire spreads inside the temple. Talana takes the opportunity to cast spells. Meanwhile, Kay can't wait any longer and goes towards the temple with a gun and takes Talana's sword along as well. He kills a few of them. Talana kills some of them guarding her and runs towards where one of them points her to the fairy. She's greeted with the awful sight of hundreds of fairies in cloning vats. Elbajee shows up, saying that it's even worse for him because a lot of money is required for making these fairy drugs. Moreover, for the new product, he had to go through the trouble of rounding up investors. Talana is already perplexed with all the fairies he is using, but then he decides to show her the fairy bomb, which can turn people into fairy dust addicts in a matter of seconds. She calls him a vile subhuman, which makes him say that he has been brought up the same way he is the son of a warrior, thus was taught all. Sword fighting, combat, etiquettes and magic, all for serving the useless nobles. A life he wasn't very fond of. However, on Earth you can have whatever you want as long as you got money. The cloning vat starts breaking and the fairies fall to the ground. He informs her that she is as stupid as these fairies. Elbajee starts fighting her again. She wishes for her sword, and right at that moment Kay arrives, giving it to her. Upon seeing it, Elbajee realizes that she is from the Vredeni school. Kay asks if she needs a hand. Tilana assures him that she can finish off Elbagi on her own. They start dueling with the speed of lightning. Tilana successfully slashes him open. Blood pools around him as he lies on the ground. Before his lights permanently switch off, Tilana does him the honor of telling him that her swordmaster was Lord Garada Vredeni. She runs towards the fairy bomb and realizes that the Latena she senses is moving further away. The fairy she is looking at is a decoy, a fake doll. They follow the Latena. It leads them to an underground passage. Tilana informs him that Zalada ran off with the fairy. On the way, she explains the whole psychic bomb thing. They make it outside and see the wizard escaping. Kay arrests him. Chief Roth comes from behind them and shoots Tilana. He tells Zalada to take his car and orders Kay to drop the gun. Turns out he was the mole all along and leaked the info on the investigation to Zalada. Kay realizes that the wizard was responsible not only for his whole unit dying back then, but also for Rick's death. Roth's excuse for Rick's death being that he felt threatened because Rick almost figured out his agenda. The chief had purposely assigned Tilana to Kay in order to slow him down. Looks like Kay's assumption was right. The chief, being a vile, corrupt man, isn't fazed by it, but rather reveals his own agenda. He tells Kay that Zalada despises the human race as much as he does. His goal is to cause terrorism and hatred between both the races. Coexistence of species is only an idealist's dream. The Semanians will take over before humans can even realize it. This terrorism will enable the world to see how dangerous they truly are. Kay can't believe what he is hearing. He angrily questions Roth's integrity of calling himself a man of the law. Roth nonchalantly confesses that before anything else he is only a human on Earth. Out of everyone else he thought Kay would understand him. Kay utterly refuses to take any part in his ridiculous plan. Roth snarkily asks him to use the revolver that he carries on his ankle. Kay takes a moment, but quickly picks up the gun and shoots him. Roth fires at him at the same time. Kay isn't fatally wounded, whereas Roth loses his life from the shot. Kay disappointingly admits that he used to think of Roth as his fatherly figure. Tilana gets up uninjured. The sword had taken the hit of the bullet instead of her. They decide to go after Zalada. They borrow a civilian's car for the rest of the mission. The chief's car has been tracked down near the forest tower in the Queen's Valley. Kay informs Tilana that the building is the tallest one there, and the people residing there are from the rich strata of the society. As soon as they reach the building, they are met with the sight of a dead guard. Tilana warns him that the wizard is a powerful man with many tricks up his sleeve, like blinding the opponent or throwing poisonous flames at them. As they make their way to the rooftop, she tells him that his earthly weapon is going to be useless, because it has no soul. However, upon taking a closer look, she can sense a faint Latena coming from his gun. Probably because Latena is created when emotions are put into using anything. Kay is about to lead the way when she stops him to tell him that he needs to trust her if they are going to be partners because she can sense the ambush attacks. Kay agrees. She helps him dodge the attacks as they make their way to the rooftop. Upon reaching it, her eyes fall on the fairy bomb with the fairy Liaya inside it. She runs towards Liaya. Kay hurriedly yells that it's definitely a trap, but Tilana is determined to save her. Kay tries to defuse the fairy bomb but is unsure how to. At that moment, they see Zalada telling them that it's a little too late and they should just save themselves. Kay fires at him, but it turns out to be a hologram. Tilana realizes that he has used an illusion to divert their attention and attacks from above. A blue poisonous flame burns Kay's back, and the fairy bomb slips out of his hands. He tries to see him, but all he sees is blue flame engulfing the floor. He concentrates on listening to Zalada's voice. Soon he figures out where it's coming from and fires in that direction. The bullet hits Zalada, eliciting a painful cry from him. Tilana attacks him as well, chopping his left forearm. He recalls that he has been wounded this badly after 103 years of living. He strangely sounds quite pleased with it though. Tilana thinks that she might finish him, but he reminds her that his death by Amir Barshay would be quite shameful for the Marzani sect. With that, he jumps off the rooftop and escapes into the night. Tilana hurriedly goes to Kay, apologizing for not having any elixir to heal him from the wound he just suffered. He tells her to run because the timer on the bomb goes off, but Tilana wants to spend these last few minutes of her life with Liaya and Kay. Even though he is an uncivilized, rude and sarcastic man, Tilana reminisces about the time when she was just a child and got lost on her way back home. Liaya was the one who guided her. They have become friends, and Tilana has kept her promise to stay by her side. Liaya probably senses that the timer is about to go off, Tilana begs her not to, but the fairy gives her life for Tilana. The latter takes this opportunity to make an elixir by using the fairy's body as she chants a healing spell. Kay opens his eyes, surprised that he is still alive. Tilana explains the whole thing to him. The detective duo is interrogated. Her mission to bring the fairy back to her people has failed. She tells Kay that she gets to go home in shame rather than die with honor. He tries to cheer her up by giving back the heirloom which she had given to O'Neill. She definitely appreciates the gesture. They bid farewell as she boards the ship. His day passes by tedious and monotonous. As he enters his apartment, he hears his TV. Kay takes out his gun, only to realize that the intruder is none other than Tilana herself. She shows him a letter. It says that she has already been assigned to his department. They are out on an assignment to wrap up some gang members. Tilana, without giving it a second thought, goes in hard and chops off one of their fingers. Kay gets an earful from his new chief, Bill Zimmer. Apparently, he doesn't want to discriminate between the pair, but still refers to her as E.T. Kay has to submit a report by 9 o'clock in the morning. Tilana is confused and hurt. She was expecting him to show some appreciation for saving Kay rather than getting nagged. Inside a garage, they find a coffin. Upon opening, it reveals a mummy of a Samanian princess. They take it to Cecil for examination. From the attire to the teeth, it's obvious that the body is of a Samanian woman. Cecil suggests that they should take her for an archaeology examination as well. She and Tilana start gossiping about Kay being a rude, sarcastic man while he stands there listening to their banter. Kay and Tilana enter the investigation room to interrogate a Samanian about the coffin. Tilana jumps him and starts violently asking about the coffin. She explains the brutal punishment about defiling a corpse. On the other hand, Cecil records the finds on the mummy and tells her assistant Chapman to carry out a CT scan. Back at the interrogation room, Tilana has the man pinned to the wall. He finally spills. Apparently, they stole the coffin from a graveyard in Doris Derrill because they thought it would be of high value. Upon hearing the name, Tilana realizes that Cecil might be in grave danger. She dashes out of the room to reach her. Kay follows suit. Cecil hears a loud bang. She slowly makes her way towards the room. She pushes the door slightly to take a peek inside. She is met with a horrifying scene. The mummy is actually a vampire sucking blood from Chapman. Their eyes meet, and she starts making her way towards Cecil. The latter is frozen in horror. Tilana hurriedly reaches her just in time. The vampire starts speaking in the old Samanian language to her. Tilana attacks her, but the sword ends up in the vampire's mouth. She spits out the half-bitten sword from her mouth. Kay comes running. Tilana tells him to get away, but he blasts a fire extinguisher at her. It does some damage to her eyes, and Tilana attacks her while Kay fires at her, but she escapes. On the examination table, Chapman lies dead, covered in blood. Kay tells Tilana that it's hard to believe that someone could rise from the dead and kill a man. Tilana tries to make it clear that the Loudon Neven, or the vampires, can regenerate. So it wouldn't matter how much damage gets done to her body. She simply regenerates herself when she drinks a human's blood. Tilana blames herself for not noticing all the signs of her being a vampire earlier. A red alert notice has been issued though. The vampire has already killed a truck driver. Chief Zimmer wants Kay and Tilana to find out how the vampire could move so quickly, even though damage has been done to her body. The superintendent starts belittling Tilana and her race for being the problem. However, Chief Zimmer quickly shuts down his accusation. He points out the fact that if it weren't for Tilana, Cecil would also have been dead. Zimmer asks how they are going to catch her. Kay suggests canine dogs, but Zimmer informs him that they are already doing their job. Kay points at Tilana to play the role. On arriving at the scene, two witnesses tell them that they saw a woman with both her arms. She probably regenerated herself. They go on to explain that she had a sort of black evening gown with flames around it. Tilana deciphers it as the Voix et Deye. A spell, when casted, gives an illusion of a dress. This means that she has gained enough energy to use magic. Kay reminds her to focus on where the vampire ran off to. Tilana focuses on her energy. A vague image of a shopping mall comes up. It's quite a tall building. The vampire probably wants to collect information on the area and how to escape the city. Kay requests for as much backup as can be provided, but once they find her, they better stay away from her. Tony informs them that nothing can be spotted on the cameras. Kay and Tilana enter the building. She can sense the vampire getting closer. They get ambushed by her. She picks up Kay like a ragdoll and throws him down into the water. Tony and his partner Alexander Godunov are able to arrive just in time to get Kay out. Alexander cracks a joke about Tony kissing him in order to wake him up. Tony points out that it's sexual harassment. Kay finally regains consciousness. Meanwhile, Tilana is nowhere in sight. She wakes up to find herself tied up while the vampire sits on a chair going through a magazine. Tilana is surprised she didn't die yet. The vampire soon figures out that they are in another world. The Greater Gate talked about in the Book of Neva has finally opened. She slowly creeps up on Tilana, excited to taste noble blood, but gets interrupted by Kay and the rest of the backup. She tries to become invisible, but they are able to see her in night vision goggles. She gets bombarded with fire from all directions, but she is still able to escape. Kay hurriedly cuts Tilana free. The vampire hides, leaving behind a trail of blood. She tries to regenerate herself and heal the wounds while thinking maybe she has ended up in hell. Just then, a magic spell starts pointing her in a direction to escape through the underground system. Kay is frustrated. He complains to Jamie about not finding the vampire, even though they have searched the whole place up and down. She suggests that they go around the East Plaza station and ambush her from there. It's likely that she took an underground passage to escape. While running through the subway, Tilana requests if they could somehow capture the vampire alive. Kay is baffled to hear that. He starts recounting all the people the vampire has and would have killed by now. Tilana clarifies that the only reason she wants her alive is that she wants to ask her something. The vampire has made it underground. She comes across the wizard who had guided her. He wants the Neva book in exchange for saving her life. She sucks his blood, leaving him dead on the ground. Kay and Tilana eventually find her as well. Tilana attacks her but gets thrown at the wall. Kay starts firing at her. She still keeps coming at him, one magazine after another and another. She is indestructible. The vampire wrestles to get to his throat. Suddenly, a train starts speeding towards them. Kay tells her to get off unless she wants to die like this. The vampire can't seem to comprehend the severity of the situation. Tilana kicks her off of Kay and gets him away from the subway track. The vampire gets butchered by the train. She will hopefully not be regenerating herself now. Tilana wants to hear him thank her for saving him. It's definitely not happening though. Kay turns in his slumber, feeling something soft. It's his cat Kuroi. He yells for Tilana to get her out. She tells him to calm down and at least notice his breathing. He isn't suffocating. She informs him that the day she saved him with that elixir was the day she also fixed his little allergy problem, which was over a month ago, but found it amusing when he would wear a mask to sleep. The duo is out eating when they get interrupted by a truck speeding off, breaking his car's side mirror. They are informed to follow it. A Semanian is driving it and wouldn't stop for the police. They buckle up and Kay speeds off after it. Kay is driving so recklessly that Tilana looks like she's either going to faint or throw up. He is finally able to get the vehicle by making it topple on the road. He jumps out the car only to find out tones of adult magazines spilled on the floor with no Semanian in sight. Tilana tells him that she was able to move the car to the side. As he looks for the car, he sees it going in reverse. It looks like she didn't pull the handbrake. A heavy truck coming from the other side crashes into it. The car gets crushed and catches fire. In the office, they get an earful from Chief Zimmer. Everyone peeks out from their cubicles to watch them. He gets interrupted by Kay literally crying for his car. He had asked so many times for a car on undercover missions, but was ignored. He went ahead and used his own car while on duty. The minute he took his eyes off it, the ET went ahead and set it ablaze. He mourns her loss. The car had been with him through thick and thin. He puts on a whole show about wanting Tilana to kill him just like she had slain his car. The chief can't hear any more of his whining and assures him to get a new ride from the police car auction happening soon. It definitely cheers him up. The chief wants Tilana to get a driver's license. Kay compares it to the serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer getting a license for killing people. They're assigned the adult magazine theft case. Tilana asks about the meaning of porn. Everyone's ears perk up. Tilana is in a state of shock at the indecency shown in the magazines. It's quite hilarious to watch her reaction. The birds and the bees concept is just bizarre to her. Tony walks in at that moment, and Kay sweeps in to grab the opportunity to flatter him, which works wonders because Tony and Alexander end up perusing The Thief. O'Neill tips them about the thief. Tony changes into his alter ego McCloud's costume. He happens to have a deep voice, is loud, rude, and despised by Tony. They make their way inside Ladies' Chapel Club. O'Neill points them to a guy named Gavin sitting at the bar. Kay tells Tilana that it's time to go home, but she has plans with Cecil. Just then, the chief throws a car key towards Kay. He takes it for a test drive. Meanwhile, Cecil gives Tilana driving lessons. She curiously asks why she chose her to teach her. Tilana confesses that she wants Key to treat her like an equal partner. Tilana already feels awful for wrecking the car he loved so dearly. Cecil tells her that their relation looks like that of a strong-willed little sister and the older brother. Cecil lets her in on a little secret. She tells Tilana that Kay had lost his sister about 10 years ago. Chances are he probably behaves this way because he sees glimpses of her in Tilana. The next day, they all wait outside. Kay arrives fashionably late. Tony reminds everyone that the deal is going to happen soon enough, so they all need to watch his back. They get into position. Gavin starts talking with Tony without suspecting a thing. A man approaches them with a gun. Gavin dashes away. The man takes Tony hostage and drives away. Tilana takes Kay's brand new car to chase them. She starts driving in the wrong lane with so much speed that she loses control. It literally runs on top of a truck, toppling it over and crashes into the runaway car. It's a miracle that they all make it out alive. Kay warns her not to drive a car so recklessly ever again. Tilana is upset. She yells at him to stop treating her like some kind of a burden. She's trying her best to learn every day. Kay is taken aback by the sudden outburst. He apologizes for calling her useless. They are arguing, and just then, to Kay's horror, the car erupts in flames. Kay arrives home late. He had to deal with the aftermath of the car crash, and the real estate agent for Tilana's place was being difficult. She takes him to her room she has set up for herself without Kay's permission. Apparently, she doesn't have a problem with the setup, even though it's Kay's place. He just goes along with it. There's no point in explaining things to her. Tilana is undercover in a high-class brothel full of Simonian girls. She goes to meet one of the clients in room 304. He throws her into the bed, but the bell interrupts him. He opens the door and is greeted with the sight of the police. He tries to explain himself, but Kay has already cuffed him. The police rounds up everyone in the building. Meanwhile, in room 304, Tilana is mad at him for being late because the man had touched her noble hair. Kay sees the man's ID card and reads his name aloud. Cole Moseley. It's familiar, but he just can't seem to remember. Tilana fills him in. The man is a mayoral candidate, a politician. The next day, the media is ruthless with Cole. He gets bombarded with questions. Cole tells them that he will be holding a press conference to clear their doubts. He denies all allegations and talks about getting justice from the ones abusing their power. In the car, he apologizes to his wife, Marla. She assures him that it was probably a setup to bring him down. Kay and Tilana watch the press conference of Cole Moseley. He is spewing one lie after another. Kay is enjoying it. He even jokes about Tilana's sword not being sharp enough to cut through all the nonsense. Meanwhile, Tilana is angry at the fact that the man gets a free pass after what he almost did to her. Kay tries to make her understand that being upset with those in power is utterly useless. No good comes from it. She is about to enter the car, but Zoe from the brothel calls for her. She has been issued a monitoring device which gives a discount on bail. Tilana helps Zoe carry her belongings to her car because she has been kicked out from where she was staying. Zoe has already found a place for herself. Tilana helps her move in. She takes a picture for Tilana to keep as an appreciation gift. Back at the office, an assistant prosecutor named Gardner comes to meet Kay. He is told that Cole's lawyers are not backing off. They have informed the media that Cole was lured in by the police to commit a crime in order to get him prosecuted. Kay picks up Tilana. She informs him that she was hanging out with Zoe. He warns her not to befriend her because at the end of the day, Tilana is a cop and Zoe might end up in court for Cole's case. The girl could end up feeling betrayed and refuse to testify. However, Tilana doesn't want to listen to him and thinks that because she is a Merva Knight, Zoe would understand. Kay tries to make her see things, but Tilana isn't up for listening to what he has to say. She hangs out with the girl as often as she can. Kay points it out, but she yells at him to stop mothering her. They reach the office. Gardner tells them that someone has leaked a list of customers of the brothel. A few of the names are true though. They need to figure out where it came from or else they won't be able to prosecute him with a fake list. Zoe gets in the car with Cole. She was the one who leaked the information to him for some cash. He demands for more and offers her extra cash in exchange for another round. She shows him the recording of their current conversation. Cole hurriedly deletes it. He kicks her out of the car. However, Marla has already seen them. Back at the office, Kay keeps hitting dead ends with the list leaked to the media. Tilana raises a point. What if one of the escorts might have gained access to the data and leaked it? Jamie shows them the information on the confiscated drives. She has restored the screenshots from the logins. One of the faces happens to be of an escort. Tylana is taken aback when she sees that it's Zoe. Gardner informs Kay that they need to figure out the real from the fabricated on the list of the brothel customers in order to convince the judge. On top of that, they have to convince the court that the information wasn't leaked by the police or the prosecutors. Kay comes up with a plan, but he needs Gardner to buy him some more time. Their brilliant plan is for Tylana to go talk to Zoe up front about the whole thing. Zoe cheerfully brings her photographs like she promised, but Tylana wants her to confess that she was the one who leaked the list. Zoe realizes that Tylana is a cop. Her feels change to that of hatred for Tylana. Just then she gets shot by an assassin. Kay goes after him and orders Tylana to stay by her side. Zoe tells her that she did it all for reasons some noble like Tylana would never understand. Kay successfully shoots him down and demands a name, but he doesn't give in and dies. Cole gets the news about Zoe's condition and is seemingly distraught. Marla comes into the room. It hits him that she was the one behind it. The woman cunningly tells him to just sit back and enjoy the show while it gets wrapped up smoothly. Tylana sits in front of the operation theatre, telling Kay that she is certain Cole was the one who sent the assassin after Zoe. Due to the lack of evidence, she won't be able to seek justice for her friend. Later, the doctor regretfully informs them that they couldn't save her life. The police wait to raid a man in a light aircraft. Kay tells the rest to grab him as soon as the engine turns off. Looks like O'Neill has tipped them off this time as well. Tylana wants to finish things up quickly rather than stay in hiding. Kay tells her to hold her horses. The target spots, but then the aircraft turns around to fly again. Kay orders everyone to block the runway with their vehicles. Tylana, as always, doesn't listen to Kay yelling for her to stop. She jumps in front of it and slashes the aircraft with her sword. It flies a few meters into the air, but falls apart in midair and comes crashing down. They spend 2 hours roaming around in a swamp but can't find the man. Kay stumbles upon a box. It looks like some junk material. Tylana can, however, smell a bit of Latina from it. Just then, Officer Helmandez of the CBP, aka the Customs and Border Protection, rudely informs them not to touch anything inside it. Kay manages to spare some time with the box. They take it home for examination. Kay hops in the shower, gets out, goes to bed, and leaves Tylana to deal with the box, because she happens to be the only one that can smell the Latena. Tylana starts going through the items carefully. One of the items, a small crossbow, happens to have a faint Latena coming from it. She gets distracted by Kuroi. A bit of jumping around releases the arrow from the crossbow. It sticks into her arm. She pulls it out but feels a strong sensation. Her knees give in and she faints. Kay finds himself waking up to Tylana climbing up on his bed, making her way towards him. Her voice has changed and she is acting like a cat. Kay is definitely frightened by it. He thinks that she is sleepwalking. Just then, the cat jumps in the middle, scratching them both with her paws. She tries to get his attention, but he ignores her and hurriedly gets away from the bed. He tells Tylana to get ready for the day. Upon seeing her unresponsive and weird reactions, he decides that she might be feeling under the weather and tells her to get some rest. He grabs the trash with the crossbow inside. It turns out that the cat was meowing so much because it was actually Tylana. Her body had been switched with Kuroi's due to the mildy or magic of Mosnell Val cast on the bow. Tylana can't believe what the cat is doing with her body. Tylana tries to focus and figure out what to do. Just then, the cat takes Tylana's body to drink from the cat bowl and uses the toilet. Well, more like the litter box. Poor Kay is about to get the shock of his life when he arrives home. They have managed to anger the chief yet again. He wants to know how a simple raid ended in a disaster. The Golombiza County Police had already given him an earful the whole night. Kay asks about the CBP also joining in on the complaints, which make the chief suspicious. Kay denies anything happening and leaves him hanging. Kay rings up Tylana, but she obviously is unable to pick up. She needs to get that crossbow from the trash outside. Tylana somehow sends a detailed text to Cecile. It says that she wants her to come over, because it's an emergency. More importantly, she doesn't want Kay to know about it. Kay sits down to enjoy some burger and fries. Just then, his phone rings. It's Helmandez. He demands the missing 28 artifact because he has only received 27. Cecil reaches the house, but Tylana doesn't come to the door. Cecil finds the key taped to a bottle. She goes inside. The house is a mess. Tylana is relieved to see her there. Cecil is taken aback by the cat, but soon realizes that it's Tylana. She explains the whole situation by typing on the phone. Kuroi in Tylana's body jumps on Cecil like a cat and knocks her unconscious. Kay reaches O'Neill's place. It looks like a bomb went off there. Hardly anything is visible. Kenny in heart pattern pajamas informs Kay that they had a party the previous night. Drunken people are passed out everywhere, even a goat is standing in the living room, but O'Neill is nowhere to be found. They hear a faint voice of O'Neill praying under a plus-size hooker named Virgin Mary. Cecil wakes up to find out that the garbage truck has already emptied the garbage. Kuroi, in Tilana's body, sits on the windowsill butt naked. Cecil goes to close the blinds. By the time she comes back, the truck has already left in the opposite direction. Cecil calls the garbage department to get a hold of the garbage, but they nonchalantly tells her that nothing can be done about it. She has lost all rights to it the moment the garbage was thrown out. Cecil arrives at the garbage department. The manager tells her that the Hunter Waste Management deals with the area she is talking about, and the trucks have just arrived at the waste collection terminal. She runs towards it and tells the co-worker to turn it off. Tilana escapes from her hold and jumps into the terminal. Kay calls the chief to tell him about Hellmanders from CBP, but he has already called him before Kay could. This makes Kay suspicious. Cecil calls him crying as she explains the whole mess to him. He isn't worried about Tilana because, after all, she will find a way to make it out alive. Meanwhile, Tilana is busy trying to seek out the Latina. She does find it, but it's already on its way to getting crushed. She gets herself off of the killing machine and somehow gets sent back to her body. As soon as she opens her eyes, she is met with the face of Hellmanders from the CBP demanding her to hand over the bow. Tilana is over the moon to see herself back in her body. The man thinks she is acting insane. Tilana gets dressed and beats the hell out of him for seeing her in that state, let alone touching her. She's about to end his life with her sword, but Kay arrives and stops her final blow. The man gets arrested. Tilana and Kay are arguing back and forth when they realise that they have left Cecil uninformed. The scene switches to her holding the cat, still outside the waste department with Kuroi in her arms, crying. Just then, she gets the call from the detective duo informing her that Tilana has switched back. They are having a party at Zimmer's family home. Kay is all worked up about the chief ruining the meat. He goes inside to get the man a beer, but then starts nagging about the clams. The women in the kitchen tell him to stop acting like a total snob. He sees the campaign of the mayoral election on TV. Alexander tells him that besides Nathan Carnes, there doesn't seem to be anyone worth voting for. Cole is still shamelessly running for mayor. Out of nowhere, Carnes gets shot while on air, he gets dispatched to the hospital, and just like that, duty calls. Their little fun party gets paused with the chief giving them a briefing on the man that shot Carnes. He happens to be a Somalian named John Inaji, aged 32 in Earth years and works at a bookstore. He has a clean slate when it comes to any charges besides a few speeding tickets. However, if the case has been assigned to the Special Vice Squad, then that means Zelada is probably behind it. They need to keep this part hushed though. The chief orders Kay and Tilana to go to Cecil's office for any further information. The whole building keeps staring at their outfit choice because the chief sent them in their pool clothes. They take a look at the body. Tilana is certain that magic has been used, but of a different kind. But just like the previous case of Rick Fury, the man was long dead before dying. On leaving the office, a guard calls Tilana an ET under his breath, but since Kay is already worked up about his holiday getting ruined over some politician, he gets mad at the man. Tilana stops him by dragging him away from the scene. Tilana thanks him in the elevator for sticking up for him, but wishes he would rather not do it. To Zimmer's dismay, magic was really used, and now he has to go inform the rest of the departments involved to watch out for a magician. Now the next step is to figure out how to catch the man, because he obviously can't be caught on security camera with his magic. Tilana reminds them that they should look at the most basic element of the investigation, the motive behind the shooting. They are at home. Kay is shaving while Tilana is busy watching the news about the elections. In the car, Kay tells Tilana that there is no information available on the gun with which Carnes was shot. They go inside the building to meet Cole. Tilana isn't ready to face him after what had happened to Zoe. Kay tells her to just focus on what she came here to do. The journalist Kevin Radnall meets them on the way. Kay already knows the drill. He goes with the phrase "no comment" for every question. They enter a waiting room to speak to Cole. He doesn't want to talk about anything. However, his wife comes into the room, telling him that he had got nothing to hide and would gladly talk about the freedom of the Somalian people and get them out of poverty. It's as if Marla is controlling him like a puppet. She gives Kay the permission to ask questions. He asks about Khan's death, but are met with a political answer of conducting thorough search before people enter. Kay then comments about Cole getting about an estimated 200,000 votes on his side after Khan's death. Marla strikes back by successfully diverting the question to another politician running for mayor, Tuat. He would be getting about 300,000 votes. Her husband is clearly losing. They will have to think about how to turn that around. Kay sarcastically comments that maybe by getting rid of Torta as well. She remarks that they are after all civilized people and don't settle everything with guns. Tilana irritatingly comments that not when they can control the dead. Marla has surprisingly heard about Mildy. Moreover, not every common Somanian can use that power. With this, she wraps it up by telling them to show themselves out the door. After their encounter with Marla, the detective duo's suspicion of Cole has shifted to her. That woman reeks of trouble. Right at the moment they hear gunshots. Tilana jumps out of her car to look for what had happened. Kay tells her not to rush. They go to the camera monitoring room. The man informs them that Cole was just shot. The clip shows a man escaping from the security, and then he brutally shoots Cole. The camera operator is trying to get an identification on him, but it's impossible. Kay tells him to change his search by cancelling out anyone walking at a 10 km/h speed. Kay explains that at a time like this, the assassins mostly try to blend in with the crowd and don't run away. The search drops to 31 people. Kay then tells him to search those who turned around but exclude anyone that did it thrice in a span of 10 seconds. Kay sure knows what he is doing. The search drops to 17 people. He then instructs to also exclude those who opened their mouths to talk. They are making good progress because the result drops to only 3 people. They spot a blonde Somanian man in a black suit going towards the north entrance. They run after him. Tilana uses her magic to concentrate on his location and spots him right behind Kay. She warns him to watch out, but the man attacks with the speed of lightning. He is definitely possessed. Kay's gunshots are of no use. The man escapes by running on top of the buildings. Tilana and Kay follow him. She's on foot while Kay borrows a man's motorcycle. He calls for backup and spots the man and Tilana fighting. Kay hits him with the vehicle, throwing him to the ground, but he starts fighting with such insane agility, bullets aren't stopping him. Kay is down to his gun on the ankle because the man has snatched his. Tilana comes to save the day with her sword. She strikes him with it and is about to give a final blow, but Kay stops her before she commits a murder. They try to get the man to confess any last words, but his face starts to change. Tilana informs Kay that the transformation magic known as Mildina Zarf has worn off. Turns out the man is not Somanian and was using Mildy by himself without Zelada controlling him. Tilana thinks that his techniques were way more advanced than Zelada's zombies. She takes a look at the gun and starts chanting magic for it to turn back. The gun slowly transforms into a camera. Tilana informs Kay that the man had used the magic Vifat steel. She then does the same with the bullet and it transforms into a battery cell. Tilana isn't pleased with it because the magic used is quite a sacred one, and for such a low purpose is just disgraceful. Even skilled blacksmiths in her country aren't on this level of smoothness the way he was. It's quite clear how he got that gun through security. Sirens blare. FBI shows up, they take things into their custody. When everything gets wrapped up, that's when the rest of the cops decide to show up. Talk about slow. The chief is disappointed yet again. He wanted them to just chase the man like normal, but it obviously wouldn't have been possible. All they got is a picture of the man's face. Cole is dead, and the commissioner is about to hold a press conference. He wants the duo to show him the paperwork soon. They are about to leave, but he can sense that they are probably hiding something. Tilana ends up explaining Vifat steel to the humans at the office. She says that the Vifat steel changes its form to latena and not temperature like normal metal. Tilana further explains that it gets extracted from a special tree. Its first form is like that of cotton and then gets woven with a special loom by a Lahji man. This is when the design is decided. It can be ornamental, but in most cases it's a weapon. She demonstrates it by changing her cloak. She even lets them hold it. They soon realize that it weighs a lot. The ladies are impressed that Tilana can carry it all day without getting stiff shoulders. However, Kay has to ruin the moment by making a joke about her height. He says that she is left short due to the weight, so basically the metal is hard to craft, and for it to be something like a gun, it has to be made with precision. This means that there is a possibility that some Lahji guy might be working with human technology to create such items. Tilana agrees with the idea. Upon hearing this, the chief has already decided a new assignment for them. He wants them to pursue the investigation and has an interview arranged for Tilana and Kay with Torte for the next day. At night, on their way back home, the detective duo sees protesters blocking the road while angrily chanting, "Go home, E.T., go home." They can't do anything about it but watch. Protest turned into a riot. People are angry about Cole's death and have taken to the streets to cause property damage and looting. Kay gives a bit of information regarding their interviewee, Domingo Torte. He was initially a boxer, then turned entrepreneur, and from there hopped onto the politics train for the past 10 years. He happens to be a right-winged extremist who often gets trolled for his views, but a certain part of the society loves him because his motto is simple: just do it. They meet the man for the interview and he starts off by belittling Tilana. His perception of the Simonians is that of freeloaders. A Simonian has already killed Khans, so that further proves his point. It's also true that the government has compensated for their living, has designed a safe way for them to travel back home, but they just don't. He believes that they came to Earth just to have some fun and reap what humans have originally sown. He simply wants for them to obey the rules of the Earth. Tilana is starting to get loud, but Kay cuts her off and apologizes to Torte on her behalf. He requests to ask one last question. When granted permission, he asks if Torte considers himself a human being first or a politician. Torte answers politician because, according to him, he would still choose this path even if he was born on another planet. Tilana is fuming. Kay doesn't pay any heed to it. She should probably get used to the etiquettes and mannerism of this world by now. He inquires if she noticed anything strange about the man, if he could possibly be behind those attacks. To their dismay, she hasn't picked up on any strange behaviour, let alone any Latania. She asks about Kay's question earlier. He explains that he wanted to see what Torte would answer because Roth had chosen being a human first and had abandoned his duty as an officer. Whereas Torte has stuck to his responsibility. The rest of the team is out investigating just like the chief had asked them to. Cammy and Jamie look for Lou from the club. She is with a client who is physically abusing her. Cammy gives him a good dressing down and then kicks him unconscious. They ask Lou about the guy who shot Cole. She remembers him a bit, but not his name though. He had good manners, was quiet, and had a tattoo of a bulldog on his arm. Jamie figures he might be from the Marine because a bulldog happens to be their mascot. On their way back, Tilana confesses that recently she has realised her status as a Somanian Kay is quite respectable compared to the ones she encounters daily. The people around her don't disrespect her or treat her any differently. Kay tells her that because of her, Kenny has started treating other Somanian customers kindly. On TV, the campaign is still ongoing. Marla has entered the race, probably because they spent a ton of money on Cole's campaign and can't back out now. She has brought hope for the Somanians with her agenda. Increased wages, job training programs, and new cost-free clinics. Tilana is finally getting the hang of how democracy works. Vote for the one that is the least awful. They are in the car when Kay gets the call that there has been a breakthrough in the investigation case. A clue about the man's identity has been found. As soon as the call ends, his phone rings again. It's Rendell, the journalist, this time. The man is all nervous and freaking out. Kay, on the other hand, speaks in his usual dismissive tone, but when Rendell tells him that he is being watched, Kay realises things might be a bit serious. The journalist's computer is acting up. He tells Rendell to meet him at the place where they first met. Chief gets a call from Tony about Moirai Materials, which happens to be a venture capital company. It looks like the only place that can handle Avefat steel. Just then, Jamie and Cammy enter his office, looking sleep-deprived, but they have finally found the identity of that man. The name is Ethan Dole from the Marines, but went MIA during Operation Mirage. He was declared dead, that's why the database didn't pull him up right away. He had been in a Somanian city for 6 years and emerged as a magic casting assassin. Alexander and Tony arrive in front of the company. The journalist waits for Kay. They finally show up. Tilana stays on guard while Rendell explains that the email was regarding a scandal of Cole's wife Marla. He had videotaped her in a hotel while she was on a rendezvous with a man. Upon seeing the photo, Kay spots the man's bulldog tattoo. He was the one who shot Cole. Rendell is scared for his life. He is certain she's going to kill him next. Kay tries to calm him down by taking a picture of the photo, but the man is freaking out badly. He is losing his mind. They get ambushed by the FBI. Rendell already has his arms up. They handcuff the three. Tilana figures out that all agents besides Ronald Chan are zombies. They get thrown into the back of the car and are greeted with the sight of Zelada. Zelada casts a spell on them, putting them to sleep. Tony and Alexander have successfully taken the suspects into custody. Eugene Balani, a Somanian immigrant, is a Lachi. He had used the company's steel to craft those metals. On the other hand, Zelada has brought Tilana to his place. She is still in cuffs with no Kay in sight. Zelada smugly informs her that Ronald the FBI guy has him in custody. The The scene switches to them. Ronald tells Kay that he just wants to live freely without being bound to rules. He further explains that they wanted Cole to win the election but soon figured that he was way too easy to control, so they switched to killing him instead. And Zelada had made sure to kill him with a Semanian weapon. Kay's eye has been bruised blue. Tilana questions Zelada for taking things so far. His reply is simple. He wants hatred to brew up in both the races for each other. Kay questions Ronald about the Vifut gun. He holds the camera in front of Kay and clicks, but nothing happens because it hasn't been transformed into a gun yet. Kay was definitely holding his breath. Ronald says that Ethan had done the whole transformation thing himself, even the gun. Zelada tells Tilana that he definitely didn't train Ethan, but rather someone she knows well did. Zelada fears for his people of the Leto Samani. Hate needs to be instilled in order to protect the homeland if a threat of invasion occurs. Earth, or rather Doriri as the Semanians call it, has polluted their land with their weapons, tools, and especially their pornography and music. Such example being Elbagi. He was skilled in his art but got corrupted by Doriri things and met his fate. Zelada admits that he has been evil and killed innocent people, but never for the purpose of corruption. Ronald wants Kay's password to copy the scandalous photo for himself and delete it from Kay's. He doesn't care who takes the mayor's seat and is ready to destroy his own client, that is Marla. Kay won't give in that easily though. Ronald bribes him with money. Kay decides to give the password. It's 7 characters and Ronald is almost done typing when he realizes it spells fuck ye and hits Kay hard. The latter isn't dumb to fall for his tricks. He keeps getting tortured. Even in that state, he fights back and gets the FBI agent on the floor. He gets him in a chokehold with his legs long enough to kill him. Kay releases himself and runs away. He finds Rendel's dead body and carefully makes his way out. Zelada keeps going on and on about hatred and decadence. Tiana tells him to stop hiding his cowardice with an evil front. The gate has opened. Nothing can be done to close it, might as well adapt to the new environment. She bravely tells him to go ahead and take her life, but he should remember that he couldn't even change mind. Thinking of changing the whole race's mind is just impossible. He tries to end her, but she is being protected by the power of Ksenia. Kay's gunshots can be heard. The whole place is creeping with those zombies. He pierces through them. Zelada excitedly waits for his arrival. He can't decide who to kill first out of the pair, but chooses Tilana first. She tries to dodge his attacks, but gets hit by one of them. He's about to end her life with another one, but Kay barges through the door like a madman covered in blood and starts shooting Zelada. The magician doesn't get scratched. Kay turns up the music to distract him and open her cuffs. She still can't get up tough, her energy hasn't returned yet. Zelada destroys the speakers. He has gone invisible. Kay keeps aiming randomly. He turns on the sprinkles. Zelada's outline finally becomes visible. Tilaran puts her Latina into the gun and starts firing at him. It finally affects him. He gets injured. Kay wields the sword and severs his head. He was finally able to gain justice for Rick. They exchange their weapons and head back. While they wait for the backup to arrive, she asks about Rendell. Kay informs her that he lost his life. Speaking of which, he wants to play dumb with the picture of Marla, even though it is legally and ethically wrong. But with everything going down, more trouble could arise from it. She wants him to turn it in because it's an important piece of evidence. And no matter what, the city is alright because good people reside in it, but doesn't confess that Kay is there. Tilana writes to her father that her view of the human race has evolved. They don't look like barbarians to her anymore. The city has returned to normal. The people are filled with all sorts of emotions just like her. She has finally learned to not take down every single one of the evils she comes across, but to skim them out. She wants to stay in this city, filled with all sorts of weaknesses, but nevertheless, still beautiful. She bids her father farewell and writes for him to give her regards to her mother and Shajana. In the end, Marl gets arrested. Torte is sworn in as the mayor and the policeman apologizes for his rudeness with Tilana. Life is good. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.